Hello everyone, your board exams are just around the corner. So let's take a little time to do a quick, calm revision of a very important chapter, Forest and Wildlife Resources. We'll make sure all the key points are fresh in your mind.
Okay, to really get a good grip on this chapter, we have to start right at the beginning with the most basic ideas. You know, a strong foundation is always the key to writing excellent answers in your exam.
So, let's look at this definition of biodiversity. I want you to notice the key words here. Richness of all the different species, how diverse they are, and this is the most important part, interdependencies. So what does that really mean? It simply means every living thing, no matter how big or small, is connected to everything else.
And that's exactly what this ecological web is all about. You see, we humans, we're not outside of it looking in. No, we are very much a part of it. We completely depend on this whole system for the very basics of life. The air we breathe, the water we drink, and the soil for our food.
So, this brings up a really important question, doesn't it? We know what biodiversity is, but why does it matter so much? Why do we have an entire chapter about protecting it? Let's find out.
And that brings us to the real heart of this chapter. Understanding why we need to conserve this is absolutely crucial. You will very often find a question on this exact topic in your exam paper. Please pay very close attention to this. These are the main points you need to remember. First, conservation keeps our different ecosystems healthy, right? That's preserving ecological diversity. Second, it protects our life support systems, our water, air, and soil. Third, it preserves genetic diversity, which helps plants and animals survive in the long run. And finally, all of this supports our own needs, like agriculture and fisheries.
All right, a quick question for you. Think back. As our wildlife was in danger, the government had to do something big. What was that landmark law that was passed in India? And can you remember the year?
That's right. It was the Indian Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. It's very important to remember the full name and the year. As you can see, this act did a few key things. It banned hunting, it legally protected habitats, it stopped the trade of wildlife, and it created an official list of protected species. This gave them a real chance to survive.
So, the Wildlife Act was the big rulebook. But based on that, the government started specific projects to save certain animals that were in critical danger. Let's look at the most famous one.
Now look at these numbers. Just look at them. At the start of the century, there were about 55,000 tigers in India. By 1973, that number had fallen to just 1,827. This was a huge shock, a real wake-up call that something had to be done and done fast.
So how did the government respond to this crisis? What was the solution?
The solution was Project Tiger, launched in 1973. Now, it's important to remember, this project wasn't just about saving the tiger. You see, the tiger is at the top of the food chain, so by saving the tiger, we were actually saving the entire forest ecosystem it lives in.
And here are some of the important tiger reserves that were set up. For your exam, you don't need to remember all of them, but please try to remember at least 2 or 3 examples. It will make your answer much stronger.
Okay, everyone, I need your full attention here. This slide is extremely important. A question on the different types of forests is asked very often. So let's look at the table. We have reserved forests. They are the most valuable and make up more than half of our forests. Then we have protected forests. That's about 1/3, and they are protected from being cut down any further. And finally, you have unclassed forests, which are managed by both the government and local people. Make sure you understand the difference between these three.
So far, we've talked about what the government has done, but that's only half the story. Real successful conservation never happens without the help of the local people. So now, let's look at the amazing role that communities have played.
And is there any better example than the famous Chipko movement? I'm sure you've heard of it. It was a peaceful movement in the Himalayas, where villagers, especially women, literally hugged the trees to stop them from being cut down. It's such a powerful story of how ordinary people can make a huge difference. This is another fantastic example. This quote is about 5 villages in Alwar, Rajasthan. What did they do? They declared a huge area of forest as their own sanctuary, the Bhairodev Dakov Sanctuary. They made their own rules to protect wildlife. This shows that conservation can start from the ground up, led by the people themselves.
Now, if you really want your answers to stand out, you should try to mention these examples too. The Bij Bachao Andolan to save old seeds,
the Joint Forest Management Program, or JFM, and the beautiful ancient tradition of protecting sacred groves. These are excellent keywords to use in your answers.
All right, we have revised all the main ideas of the chapter. Now for the most practical part. How do you take all this knowledge and turn it into a high-scoring answer in your exam?
Just follow this simple 4-step structure. Think of it like a recipe. First, always start with a clear definition. Second, add 2 or 3 points to explain it further. Third, and this is very, very important, give specific examples from the textbook. And last, just underline the important keywords. It helps the examiner see your main points clearly.
So let's try this with a sample question. Let's say you get this question for 5 marks. You would start by explaining that local communities in India have played a very important role. Then, you would give those specific examples to prove your point.
And for that question, this slide is your treasure chest. You should absolutely mention the Chipko movement, that Santotri in Alwar, the JFM program, and the traditions of sacred groves and nature worship like the Bishnoi community. Using these specific names, that is what will get you full marks.
And that's it. We've covered all the major topics. I want you to remember, you have studied hard and you know this material. The key now is to just revise smartly and, most importantly, stay calm and confident during your exam. You are well prepared.
I want to end with this beautiful quote. It's a gentle reminder of how generous nature is and how it is our duty to protect it. Go into your exam with a clear head and a calm heart. I wish you all the very best.